Hey guys, welcome to another episode of What's in the Fridge. Alright guys, so I've looked through my fridge and today I've decided to make a vegetable soup because I have a lot of leftover vegetables and I haven't had soup in a while and I'm craving something healthy today. I didn't eat too healthy over the weekend, so I figured a vegetable soup would be perfect. And it's vegetable soup doesn't always appeal to everybody because it doesn't really sound like it would have much flavor. But if you put together the right ingredients, you can have a very, very flavorful vegetable soup. And if you want to cut carbs, you don't even have to add pasta or rice or anything. You can just have it just with the vegetables itself. But if you want pasta, if you want rice in the soup, go ahead. I'm going to leave that out today. It's just going to be pure vegetable soup with some beef broth and some vegetable broth that I'm going to make using bouillon cubes. But if you have your own broths that you've made yourself, that's even better. Or if you have some store-bought broth, that's good too. Anyways, I'm going to show you guys what I got today for ingredients, and then we can start chopping and cooking. So the first thing I got is I have this leftover zucchini from the other day. I've got a tomato. I got a little bit of a red pepper, and there's not much here, but whatever we have left over we use. And then I've got this bag filled with, it's got an onion, some carrot, some broccoli, some lettuce, and last but not least, a little package of butter lettuce that I used to make these butter lettuce tacos. I use the butter lettuce as shells instead of taco shells, just to be a little more healthier. But yeah, that's what we got. We're gonna make a soup. We're gonna add lots of herbs and spices. The herbs and spices don't really matter. It's whatever your preference is. I'm using salt, pepper, cumin, parsley, oregano, and 2 bay leaves today. So that's what I'll be using. But whatever is your preference, go ahead and use. This is about using what's left over in your house. It's about learning new flavors and trying to use ingredients in ways that you've never used before. Anyways, I'm going to get chopping and we can get this soup going. There was one more ingredient that I forgot to mention, and that ingredient is an apple. Now, I know this seems really weird, but you can actually put apples in your soup. It adds a little bit of sweetness, and apples are really good for you. Now, you know what they say, apple a day keeps the doctor away. But, it's more true that it keeps the dentist away, because apples are really good for cleaning your teeth. Anyway, I'm going to get chopping, and we can start this soup. The first few things I'm going to start chopping are the celery, which I also forgot to mention. Did I mention I'm not a professional chef? Or a professional video maker, producer kind of guy? So one-man show, remember. But yeah, the first thing I'm going to chop is the celery, the onions, the carrots, and the garlic, which I, again, forgot to mention. But it's okay. It's all here now. I'm going to start chopping all this stuff, and I'm going to add it into my pot with olive oil, because that's going to kind of be the base to our soup. And then I'll add the rest of the veggies later when we've added the broth and when we've cooked this stuff down a little bit. So anyways, I'm going to get chopping. And let's see. Yes, I'll do the garlic first. I kind of like to leave my garlic in big chunks. Now, the reason for this is because I love biting into a piece of garlic in my soup. Some people don't, but I love biting into a piece of garlic. It's one of my most favorite flavors. That's why I love garlic bread, which isn't the greatest for you, but I freaking, garlic bread's delicious. You guys can chop the garlic way tinier than I just did, but I like it this size for this kind of soup. But it all depends on what kind of soup you're doing. Like, sometimes when I make this vegetable soup, I like to puree everything to make it nice and smooth, because some people hate chunks of veggies in their soup. Little kids, when I was a little kid, I hated chunks of veggies in my soup. So what I would do is I would get my grandma to, this onion's really weird. I would get my grandma to always puree my soups, because I was a dumb little kid. But now I love it. So anyway, I'm just dicing the onion here, as you can see. Now it's a soup, so you don't really have to cut anything perfect, and it's kind of hard to cut things perfectly when all you have is leftovers that have been mangled already. But whatever. Cut everything the way you like it. I've said this before in my other episodes, but a lot of people don't like onions. So if you want to hide the onion, hide it by chopping it super small, mincing it, or leave the onion out. Add onion powder. That works too. Alright. I'll finish off cutting that. I'm gonna cut everything about the same size so it all cooks around the same time. So once I'm done chopping everything and I'm ready for the actual cooking part, I'll be back and I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, so here we are. We got the olive oil heating up, medium-high heat. Now, if I want to find out if the olive oil is ready, I'll just put a little piece of onion in there, or garlic, and you see how it's bubbling? That means the oil is ready for the vegetables. So I'm going to add all these vegetables in that we just chopped. Add a bit of a spillage. Now, that's the sound you want. And you want to get all these cooking down. There we go. Now I wish you guys were here because it smells delicious. Like this is one of the best smelling things in the world when you got your soup base going, and you just know everything's gonna taste amazing when it's all done. That sound too. I mean, if you grew up with like your mom or grandma cooking, and you remember hearing this sound and then smelling this aroma, this kind of brings you back to your childhood, because this is one of the most basic soup bases, right? Celery, carrots, onion, garlic. So anyway, I'm just going to cook this and let everything sweat out until the onions are pretty translucent. And then we're going to go ahead and add our broth. Now I'm adding 4 cups of broth to this, and I'll finish everything with a few cups of water. Or, I mean, if it even needs water, right? You kind of just gotta eyeball it yourself. I'm gonna guess it'll need about a couple more cups of just plain water, and then we'll taste, we'll season, and we'll see how it is. So I'm gonna let this cook down until everything's translucent and ready to go, and then we'll be back when the broth is ready to be put in. Now, I forgot to mention that before I throw the broth in, I'm gonna throw in all the other veggies just to saute for a minute or two. Not too long, just to slightly soften them. Then I'll add the broth in and let the soup simmer for about 30 minutes and everything should be done. Now I'm going to chop those veggies, get the broth ready, and I'll be back when that's ready to go. Alright, we're back and I'm ready to add the vegetables. The ones that weren't added yet. Now here I'm adding zucchini, apple, red pepper, and broccoli. There's still a few vegetables that I'm not adding yet, and that's because I'm waiting until the stage where we've added the broth. Those vegetables are way softer than the ones I just added, and so they'll cook down inside the broth itself, but I just want to give these ones a little bit of a saute, just because they're a little bit of a harder vegetable. And I mean, the apple also is a little bit hard, and I want the natural sweetness and sugars from the apple to come out before we add the actual broth. So we'll let that sit and saute for about 2 minutes. And once that's done, we'll be ready to add the broth. We'll bring that to a boil, then reduce to a simmer, and add all the softer vegetables. And while this is going on, I'm going to be chopping the softer vegetables. Alright, now the harder vegetables have been sauteing for about 2 minutes, as you can hear that wonderful sound. And now I'm going to add the 4 cups of broth that I made with the bouillon cubes. Now the bouillon cubes I added warm water so they would break down. And I'm going to add this into the soup here. And what we're going to do is we're going to let this come to a boil. Once this comes to a boil, we're going to reduce the heat, add the softer vegetables, and let it simmer for about 30 to 45 minutes at a low temperature. So we're going to wait till this comes to a boil, and I'll be back when that happens, and we can add our softer vegetables and our spices at this point. Alright, so at this point the soup is about to come to the boil. So before that does, I'm going to add my seasonings. Now, I'm just adding some pepper here. I'm going to hold off on the salt because bouillon cubes are a little salty, so I'm going to wait to taste it after everything's been simmering for 30 minutes, and we'll see if it needs salt or not. This is just a little bit of cumin, just a little bit. This here is parsley and oregano that I've mixed together. It's just dried. And I've decided to add a little bit of coriander. Why not? And then I don't know if you can see, but there's a bay leaf right here. And there's another one somewhere in there just floating around. And that'll simmer and that'll incorporate flavor as it simmers. There we go. At this stage also, before the boil happens, I will add the chopped fresh tomatoes and the butter lettuce. Now I know lettuce might seem really weird to put into a soup, but any leafy green, any leafy vegetable is great in a soup. It just soaks up the flavor, it cooks down, you won't even notice it once it's been simmering for a while, and it just makes for a really delicious soup. You can honestly add whatever the hell you want to a soup. I mean, like, not anything, but vegetable-wise, anything's fair game. Alright, there we go. I mean, doesn't that look great already? It smells amazing too. And it'll be even better once it's simmered for about 30 minutes. Everything will be nice and tender. Lots of veggies. It might need a cup or two more of water, but right now it seems good. I suggest covering it when it does get to the boil and when you are at the simmer stage, because you don't want to lose any of that liquid because it'll evaporate really quick. And I've got a lid ready to go over here. I'll just grab that. And we'll just wait for the simmer to happen. You can probably see it's boiling now. So I will cover it first. And then reduce on the oven to a low simmer. And like I said, that'll be another 30 minutes and we'll be back. Alright guys, it's been about 35-40 minutes, and now we're ready to check on the soup. Look at that, looks beautiful. It's got a nice color, that's what I was looking for. All the veggies seem nice and tender. Before I turned the video on, I checked for tenderness with a fork. Now we're going to taste it and see if it needs any last minute seasoning. That's delicious. It's really good. It needs just a little tiny bit more of salt. And that's about it. If you want to make it spicy, you can add some spice, but I didn't want to go spicy today. Even though I love spicy, because I'm going to be giving this soup to my family and they're not so big on the spiciness. Well, the people eating it aren't. Anyway, I'm going to plate this and then we'll be back. Alright, so I've got a nice white bowl here. And I'm going to go ahead and plate the soup. Look at that. Add a little bit more with the juices. And there we go. That's about a serving to me. That's what the soup looks like in the bowl. I'll mix it around a bit and I'll grab a spoonful. There we go. And I'll give everything a taste right now. Let me just blow on this because this is very, very hot. One sec. And I just wanted to point out that you can see the chunks of garlic, and that's what I personally like. But again, if you're not up for that, chop it all small. And I mean, this show is all about preference and all about using what's in your fridge. I'm just cooking and giving you ideas of what to do, because it's not usual to put apples. It's not usual to put normal lettuce in your soup. But through experience and through trial and error, I found that these things work, and they may be weird, but they're delicious, and, you know, I dare you to give it a try. Anyways, I'm going to try this now. I should have blew on that more, but it's delicious. There's a lot of flavor. You can taste that garlic. That apple, though, adds a little bit of sweetness. Again, I know it sounds weird, but try adding some apple to your soup. That adds a nice little crunch and a little bit of sweetness. And it goes really well if you do like spicy soup. It kind of cuts the spiciness. It kind of cuts the spiciness. It's delicious. And you won't even like, it doesn't feel like apple in your mouth. It kind of feels like if you added a potato, like a sweeter potato. Or even, it kind of even has the same texture as the zucchini. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode of What's in the Fridge. I enjoyed making it. Soup's one of the easiest things to make. It can be daunting at first, but really it's just throwing a bunch of crap in a pot and letting it boil. I mean, if you really think about it. Let me know what you thought, and if you have a bunch of stuff in your own fridge and you don't know what to do with it, just send me the ingredients in the comments, and I'll try to put something together for you in one of the later episodes. I'll buy those ingredients and just try to see what I can make up based on what you give me. Anyways, thanks again, guys.